Alright Nick, thanks for meeting with me today. As you know, a small number of Arup staff, myself included, have been set the mission to make a significant difference in a stranger's life. And as I understand it, that's effectively how Youngcare developed. You and a couple of mates rallied behind a friend's wife who had MS, and I was wondering if you could tell us a bit about that Youngcare evolution.
That's a pleasure, Richard. Youngcare, we formed Youngcare in 2005, and it was a result of a friend of ours. He was married to Siobhan, who unfortunately, due to her state of care, he couldn't look after her at home any longer, and he looked around for a few alternatives of what the next stage of care for her might be, and found there was only aged care facilities. So he came to us. There was 4 of us, a few mates, and he said, we've got to do something about this. So we rallied together and brainstormed, and we were going to renovate a house out at Pullen Vale, because she lives and all of her friends are on the western side of Brisbane. And then we approached the care provider, Wesley Mission Brisbane, and they said, we've got some land you might want to use at Cinnamon Park, which was on the western side of Brisbane, and said, if you want to raise the money to build the apartments, why don't you build something a bit bigger? And so we went about doing that and building it next to their hydrotherapy pool out at Brisbane, out at Cinnamon Park. So we started off thinking we're going to build a $2.5 million building, and so we set off and had a big fundraiser, raised $25,000, and thought, wow, we've got a long way to go, but you know, we're still going to do this. And anyway, it turned out to be bigger than we thought. 16 apartments, $7 million building, but we got there in the end. So I think what we proved is, once you set your mind to something, that you can do it, and with the support of your community. And once they recognise the need, which we didn't recognise at the time either, there's 6,500 young people living in aged care facilities in Australia, similar to Siobhan. She was 32 when she went in, and she lived out at Cinnamon Village, at Cinnamon Park, until she could move into the Youngcare apartments. So I think it's testament to the Brisbane community and corporate Queensland and Australia of what can be pulled off.
So Nick, where do Youngcare get the funding to provide the services you do?
Youngcare receives its revenue from a number of sources. The government are great supporters of Youngcare, and they provide the recurrent care, which is a really important part of the equation, being the care for the residents and on an ongoing nature. As far as building the apartments and buying the land, that money comes from mums and dads, from trusts and foundations, from corporate Australia, and also through services offered on a pro bono basis from Arup and other consulting organisations, to probably provide up to half of what we need to raise in the donated goods and services. So, you know, we've got people providing concrete, steel, timber, you know, mums and dads providing crockery, cutlery, placemats, dishwashers, whatever, to make up the apartments and make them complete. And that probably makes up about half of the value. Mm-hmm. Then the income, the cash that we raise from the other sources in fund runs and dinner parties and auctions, and also through the corporate social responsibility programs through a number of corporates in Australia who give us cash that makes up the balance.
At Arup we've got a community partnering program, and as part of that we assisted Youngcare on the Gold Coast apartments, and we had traffic engineering, acoustics, civil, geotech and fire involved. And I was involved in the traffic engineering, and I know from a personal and also a professional point of view I got a great deal out of that project. It meant a great deal to me. How important is that sort of community partnering model to Youngcare's future vision of rolling out these Youngcare apartments across Australia?
Richard, it's essential. Really, as you know, we are taking it from a local Brisbane and Queensland model throughout Australia. So the next apartments we build are in Sydney, then we'll go to Melbourne, and then throughout Australia. And we want to produce world's best practice. I think so. In saying the donated services by particularly our consultant teams in construction, and you guys were fantastic in being a multidisciplinary organisation like you guys. It was wonderful that you were able to talk to each other and solve the problems that the site had. So it's imperative that we secure some pro bono services. You guys were very kind and you provided all of them. The lower the cost that we can provide those services, or you can provide those services, the better, because the cash that we can use go into the improved services that we can offer the end residents. So yeah, I couldn't thank you guys enough really for what you've done for us on the Gold Coast so far.
As I mentioned before, Nick, a number of Arup staff have been set the challenge of making a meaningful difference in a stranger's life, and we've come across a sad story of Marley. She's a 23-year-old who suffered an acquired brain injury, and what we'd like to do is raise some money for Marley through an Everyday Heroes page, and with that money we'd like to buy rehabilitation equipment. But what we need to do, and one of the challenges we face, is that we need to link it to a not-for-profit organisation account, and we'd love to use Youngcare as that mechanism. But what I'd also like to know, if that's okay, is any tips or tricks you might have on how we can go about raising this money and raising the profile of the cause.
Well, like any fundraising, it's about the power of your networks and relationships that you currently have. I think you have to make sure that the people recognise the case that you're raising. So Marley, for example, who was a young lady who fell down the steps in London, it's happened, as I said, there's 6,500 young people in nursing homes in Australia. There's another 700,000 people in Australia under the age of 65 that need assistance with everyday living. So you can say what happened to Marley has happened to numerous people in this country, but the powerful way that you can raise money, and you guys can raise money, is making sure your networks understand Marley's individual case. And what you've done at the moment is got that video on Everyday Hero, which is fantastic because it tells a real life story of the friends and the impact of what Marley's going through. I think once you convey that story to your contacts, and once that they go out and convey the story on your behalf, it becomes that ripple effect, and that's the powerful part of the fundraising. The co-creation that we do at Youngcare is we say, okay, we've got this problem here, and you guys are a prime example of this. We say, this is our problem, the young people in nursing homes, can you help us solve it? So on the next level is you can say, this is our problem, we got Marley here, and you ask for other people to contribute to how do we solve this problem, how do we buy Marley this rehabilitation equipment that she needs, and you allow people to be as creative as possible within your framework, and they can go out and use their initiative, which we've found phenomenal with ours. We don't even know what some of the things that are going on out there, because we believe in that co-creation factor. It's very powerful, particularly with online fundraising.
Thanks for your time today, Nick, and hopefully Arup and Youngcare can continue the community partnering that we've already started. And I know that myself and the team members I represent are excited about the Marley cause. And thanks again for your time.
That's a pleasure.